Hello and welcome to the National Baseball League once again. Time for game recaps. It's a 13-game day, so this is just board 1. I'll go through these, then I'll do board 2, like usual. Now I'm going to count the date. Today is June 3rd. Tomorrow's the Stanley Cup Final. I'm very excited for that. Let's go Edmonton. Man, but anyway, moving on. Here we go, I'm just gonna adjust this. That's better. So, here we go. We're gonna go left to right, top to bottom, starting with the Aliens and the Utah Raptors. Well, yeah. What do I even say? So the Utah Raptors score 16 runs on 17 hits. No, that is not a mistake. 16 hits, 17 runs. Albuquerque one run on 6 hits. 2 errors for the Aliens, so that probably contributes to it. And the series is split to just out of nowhere. It's not like it was a lopsided. Like every score is already 5-0 or 9-1 or 8-2 or 10-3 or 4. So the other ones are quite close games. Maybe 1-3-1 scoring and all. Just out of nowhere, 16-run game. Oh boy, that's something. So the series is split 2 games apiece, and then we move to the Boston Whalers and the Tampa Bay Titans. That's the one I covered today. Boston had a pretty good fight, trying to come back. Just what was happening is the inning defensively they let 2 runners get on base with nobody out, and then the dominoes would fall from there. They did it like in 3 different innings. Tampa Bay did it once too, and that's why they let the Whalers get 6 runs. But it's like a chain reaction. One play leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and then all of a sudden, you've given up 3-4 runs in an inning. That's what happened here. And the Titans win this one 11-6. So, Titans 11 runs on 17 hits, Whalers 6 runs on 7 hits. So the Whalers avoid a sweep as they get pummeled defensively. Their defense just wasn't there. But the Whalers take the series 3-1. They don't get the sweep. To Minnesota and New York. The New York Knights, that's the Manhattan New York team. Well, again, they do play in the same building. Just canonically, the Sailors, all their facilities, like outside of the stadium itself, they're all in Brooklyn. Theirs are all in Manhattan. And therefore, their New York Sailors fan base, Brooklyn, New York Knights fan base, Manhattan, and or the Bronx. Probably Newark too. I wanted to give Newark a team, but there's only 30 teams you can have, and I have to get rid of like Chicago. Probably who would I get rid of if I were gonna give Newark a team? I don't know. Since I don't want to get rid of Memphis, maybe Memphis, but I didn't do that. Newark's weird because they're the ones that host a bunch of stuff, but there's only one team that actually has their name. I'm a fan of them. They're the New Jersey Devils. Hopefully next year's better. Moving on. I'm getting on a tangent here. So back to this series. The New York Knights. Did I write? No, I wrote that correctly. I wrote this part wrong. Wrong team here. That's supposed to be New York. So the New York Knights, a 3-1 win over the Northern Lights. Because New York, what they would do is they let them get on base, but then they'd shut them down. That's what happened here. 10 base hits, 1 run. Fantastic, good. They were really good clutch apparently in this game tonight. So the New York Knights, not the Northern Lights. New York wins the series 2-1. They moved to the second round. Try not to get on any more tangents. The St. Louis Stars and the Las Vegas Gamblers get another blowout. So St. Louis, they just plummeted Vegas 10-3, and they sweep the series against the Las Vegas Gamblers. 16 hits for St. Louis. 16 hits. They do give it an error, but it doesn't really matter. 10 runs for the Stars, just 3 for the Gamblers, and they sweep the series. Moving on to the Toronto Huskies and the Montreal Expos. Final game of this series is Montreal. I take this one. Polar opposite of the last game. That was the story of this series. Toronto took game 1 in like a landslide, like 13-5. Then Montreal takes game 2 9-1. Then Toronto takes game 3 6-4. And then Montreal takes game 4 5-1. So just back and forth. Series split 2 games apiece. Montreal 10 hits in the game. Toronto 1 run on 6 hits and an error. San Francisco. They defeat the Seals to avoid getting swept. 4-3, probably an extra innings game, or at least like a 9th inning game, or like a walk-off. Probably a walk-off at the very least. So three runs and 8 hits for the Seals. For the San Francisco Firebirds, 4 runs on 9 hits. And the Seals win the series 2-1, moving to the bottom row. The Portland Anchors and the New York Sailors, final game of this series. And Portland, they edge out that 3-2 win. It's been close, but Portland's just edging out wins over the Sailors. And they win this one 3-2. 6 hits for the Anchors, 3 runs in the New York Sailors, 2 runs with 4 hits. Portland sweeps the series. There's a lot of sweeps here. That's 1 sweep. Actually, there's 3 sweeps on this board. I don't know how many will be on board number 2 because I haven't looked through the scores. Except for Columbus, I know they lost. So I took a look at. Moving on to Memphis and Cincinnati, the Stingers, they get the wins. I'm an Ohio kid. I like Ohio teams, so I'm happy about this one. The Stingers, they went to. I'm not that biased for Cincinnati. If Columbus had an MLB team, I would be a fan of that. But they have the Clippers. AAA for the Guardians. I just don't care. And I'm a Reds fan. It's their other close team. But I'm trying not to get on tangents, but apparently that's not working. So the Cincinnati Stingers, they get pummeled today. Oh, it was rough. They had their first 2 games were fantastic against the Memphis Blues. But today, maybe they were exhausted. 1 run, 3 hits, an error. That's all for the Stingers. The Memphis Blues, 7 hits, 7 runs, 13 hits, no errors. So the Stingers avoid a sweep. They have just as much teams that almost got a sweep, and then they lose this game. Cincinnati, San Diego, Minnesota, Boston. That's 4. So 3 sweeps, 4 almost sweeps, and then a couple were split 2 here. That makes up what happened throughout these series. We'll see what. There's only going to be 4 games on board too, so I'm just going to do a quadrant. So the final game of this board, go right back to writing. The Orlando Sunrise and the New Orleans Gators final game of this series. 7-5 win over New Orleans over. I need to speak again. 7-5 win for the Sunrise over the Gators. New Orleans, they came close in the last 2 games of this series, but they don't win it, so they're not winning the games. So this feels like the Reds last year. Oh my God, this is what the Reds did. They give you hope, and then not when as soon as you're like 1 run down or you're tied and then they blow it in the bottom of the 9th. They blow 9th in leads, or they're trailing. They get like to either a tie game or they're within 1, and they just don't win. So what this feels, that's New Orleans right now. That is New Orleans. So enough of this board. See you in a moment for board number 2. And so, I'm back. Here's board number 2. So, same old thing. So, the Vancouver Grizzlies and the Houston Cosmos. And Houston, the final of this series, a pretty close game. But Vancouver just gets the edge just enough. And they get a 5-4 win. Could have went to extra innings. 5 runs on 10 hits for the Grizzlies. 4 runs on 8 hits for Houston. Pretty close game. So, the result, the Vancouver Grizzlies sweep the series against the Houston Cosmos 3-0. Then we go to the Washington Monuments being hosted by the Texas Twisters. So Texas, with a shutout. 5 runs, 9 hits. They do commit an error, but it doesn't really matter because they don't allow a Monument to score. And they almost got a sweep, but they won the series with this game to take the series 2-1 over the Washington Monuments, and that's that. Then finally, Chicago, they were 0-5. They were about to be 0-6, and then out of nowhere, they just shut out the Edmonton Eagles 8-0. 8 runs on 15 hits, for just 4 hits for the Eagles, and they don't get on the board. Wow. Now the final game of the day, and not one I'm too happy about. Columbus, a 1-4 loss to the Philadelphia Liberty. Philadelphia 10 hits, they score 4 runs, and the Columbus Aviators score on their only hit. Come on. I want to see better. I want to see better. This is not acceptable. 1 run on 1 hit? Do better. Okay, that happened. I'm just gonna cut that out. Well, that happened. I don't really care if you can't see the board anymore or not, but that does it for this. I'm Thomas Rose. Goodbye. See ya.